Welcome to Sandy Says. My name is Sandy Dimiturgic, and I am the SARTA Director of Community Engagement. I promote SARTA's advocacy programs and manage the support groups for people diagnosed with schizophrenia or related disorders. I also serve on the board of directors. Today we are meeting with Rohan Rana. He's going to talk about his experiences with recovery. Please introduce yourself, Rohan.
Hi, my name is Rohan and I have a mental illness and I had been diagnosed with schizoids during the year 2006 and since from 2013 I am practicing my recovery.
And tell us about your story of recovery.
Uh, actually, this has started a long back. I am 45 years old now and most of the event that had happened to me I have already forgot most of the things, but so far I remember during the year 1993, I started taking marijuana at that time. And since from then, my marijuana intake, it has been gradually accompanied by the cough syrups, then other pharmaceutical drugs, and I gradually started taking heroines. I continued that way and life was going by and several episodes were happened at that time for my drug intake only. During the year 2004, I got married and at that time I was working even in a job. Then with my wife and with my mom, with my family, started having some kind of experiences which were not good for me and I started my drug addiction. It was increasing day by day at that time. I remember since from the morning time, I used to take marijuana, I used to smoke marijuana, I used to take other hallucinogen drugs, and uh, and several delusion episode started happening with me. I started doubting my wife. I started doubting my mother. If I saw at that time some two people were sitting around the corner and they were looking at me, I started thinking like they were talking about me, and I went to them and I started fighting with them. Most of the thing I forgot, but whenever I used to meet people these days, they used to talk about those days, what I used to done, uh, like my office colleagues right now. They used to tell me like at that time, I was there in my office, I was stooping down my head towards the ground and I used to sit like that for hours. And people of my colleagues, they used to think like I'm suffering with certain depression episode or like that. My delusion episodes were increasing at that time to an level that my wife, she had to leave me, and I have to face a divorce with my wife, and she left me. We had a legal divorce, and it was 2008 at that time. And I went to a chronic phase, and during the 2008 only, my family put me in a rehabilitation center for my drug use, but not for my the mental illness. Because in India, here in my locality, whatever the problem I was suffering at that time, the delusions or the right now I'm knowing the factors, but at that time I was not aware what was happening with me actually. So they put me inside a rehab, and there were the professionals. They talked with me. There were professionals, there were doctors, and they diagnosed me with schizotypal personality, and they started my medication. I have been put under several other therapy models, and I suffered till 2012. And afterwards, from 2013, I stopped having this kind of delusions or this kind of episodes. And right now, I'm doing certain other things. Uh, this is the brief of my life story, actually. If you want to know anything else, I'll be telling. Sandy.
Yeah, so what resources are available in India for people with your mental illness or for people with schizophrenia?
In my locality, I belong to the northeastern part of India. It's a state called Assam. Here we have professional psychiatric doctors, and we do not have any other resources except the doctors, actually. We do not have any schizophrenia dedicated centers here. We do not have any government policies for schizophrenic patients. And still, the society has been stigmatized with this condition.
So you don't
So,
have
if
like
one,
therapists?
no dedicated therapists are here available, Sandy.
Wow. Wow.
There are psychiatric doctors, but no any dedicated therapists. Like, see, right now I know that schizoids, they have a lot of dimensions. Uh, it may be schizotypal personality, it may be schizoaffective disorder. But if one individual who is witnessing with some other syndromes, and if he go to a psychiatric doctor, most of the doctor, they used to diagnose him as schizophrenia, and they will be treating him under medications only. No
So you,
dedicated schizophrenia,
yeah, go ahead.
no such dedicated centers are here for schizophrenia.
So you mentioned that they do have residential treatment facilities for substance use. That's
Yes,
correct?
I do. Yes. So substance use disorder. I used to work in a rehabilitation center here. It's called Nirman Rehabilitation Center, and we are here. We are working with the people who is suffering with substance use disorder, and marijuana intake, and certain other guys who came here with such diagnosed, diagnosed by the doctors, diagnosed by the psychiatry. And if the psychiatric diagnosed them with schizophrenia, then recently we started the essay meeting structure here. And it's been 1 month under your guidance, Sandy. We are continuing the essay meeting here with the spiritual principles of essay.
So speaking of essay, how has essay helped you in your recovery of your journey of recovery?
See, prior to the essay meeting, for the schizophrenic patient and the patient with schizoaffective disorder we are having here, uh, we only used to treat them with the medications. There are no things like self-analyzation process, or there is nothing like the patient will be identifying his activating event. The patient will be identifying his own beliefs. The patient will be identifying his own causes. There was no process. After coming to the Schizophrenia Alliance, as guided by the Blue Book of the Schizophrenia, as it has been written there, we encourages the patients to describe their own story. This has helped them a lot. You know, they are growing their confidence these days. I can see the transformation. Even my colleagues who are who had uh, experiences of delusions and hallucinations, they are also joining me these days, and we have increased our number to 9, and everyone is getting benefit from these essay meetings, I can see.
Right. And for people who are watching this video who are unfamiliar with essay, essay stands for Schizophrenia Alliance, Psychosis Support and Acceptance, and SARDA, which stands for Schizophrenia Related Disorders Alliance of America, holds free support groups. The SA or FFC, which stands for Families and Friends for Care, which is for non-diagnosed people. And we are thrilled to have Rohan on this video because we actually are an international organization, and people like Rohan start SA in their countries and work with us. Rohan, what do you, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, what do you think about SARDA's advocacy work to reclassify schizophrenia as a neurological brain disorder?
Yes, I have gone through the website once. I have read there the neurobiological factors and all. And most of the terms, those were medical terms, and I failed to understand them properly. But I do agree with whatever the vision today SARDA is having for the schizophrenics and other related disorders of schizophrenia. So my vision, I have a vision also, as I have suffered certain kinds of episode, as I still have to face the stigmatization of the society, being neglected by the normal people. They have their own vision of seeing people like us. They think like we are retarded, and they even think like we are going to kill them if I am angry, and if a normal guy is angry. The society used to see our angers in a different way. People will be thinking like they will be terrified always. And uh, right now, Sandy, we are conducting this meeting inside our rehabilitation. I want to bring this meeting outside of the rehabilitation. If I have to go, if I go to a church maybe, or a school, if I can get a room there, they will provide, I know. If I ask a father, if I state them that I want to conduct a meeting weekly here at your hall, or if you provide me a room, then I want to bring this meeting outside of the rehabilitation, make available for the normal people. Normal people means if someone is suffering inside his home, and here in India, in my locality, if a family member is suffering with this kind of disorder, the other family member, they used to hide this thing. Means if I'm reachable to you, they will be not speaking about the problem. They will be hiding the individual. They will not allow that individual to meet with normal people, to go out of home. Uh, Here, we have our own way to deal this kind of thing. So in that case, I want to reach the normal crowd, the normal people, and make them understand. So this is why actually at very first I reached you. I texted you, I sent you an email, and I am much obliged how you have anticipated, and so far you have helped us, helped a lot of people by providing us the blue book, the meeting structure of essay, and I'm ever grateful to you for this, Sandy.
Well, thank you. And before we leave in the meeting, I wanted to ask you, so what happens in India if somebody's suicidal? If they don't have, do they have beds, psychiatric beds they can go to?
That I am not aware actually, but let me not talk about the India as a whole, because I used to stay in a part and I'm not involved in this kind of thing. But
Okay.
uh, here, if an individual committed a suicide, so first the family will be hiding the reason of the cause of the death. They will be trying to establishing this as a normal death. First thing, the family will be having a tendency to hide the cause of the death. And we have normal procedures over here. If someone commits a suicide, then the family has to take the body to hospital, then the postmortem will be done, and then the cremation, the
Right,
process
right.
of.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I know that's a difficult subject to discuss, but Here in the States, I guess in the late 90s, they started doing crisis intervention where,
Okay.
if you call the police to come to your house because your loved one is sick, the police are actually trained how to handle the situation so that the person doesn't feel threatened. Do y'all have anything like that?
Yes, we have suicide prevention centers and counseling centers set by the government in certain places, but that is not all or in all over the state.
Oh, okay. 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 Well, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we end the meeting?
Yes, Sandy. As I have told you already, that I have a vision, I have a desire to bring this SA meeting outside of this rehabilitation. So I want to request you to give us a registration under you officially, and I'll be ever obliged. The entire locality will be obliged before you.
Well, I really want to thank you for volunteering your time and everything you're doing. It sounds like you really do share the vision of SARTA for improving lives. So, and we will be in touch. Thanks for joining us today. Please go to our YouTube SARTA 1 registration page so you don't miss our future interviews. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Welcome to Sandy Says. My name is Sandy Dimitarchik, and I am the SARTA Director of Community Engagement. I promote SARTA's advocacy programs and manage the support groups for people diagnosed with schizophrenia-related illnesses. I also serve on the board of directors. Today, we are meeting with Japheth Obare from Kenya. Japheth is going to talk to us about his experiences with recovery. Could you please introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Japheth Obare, and I'm the chairperson of Schizophrenia Society of Kenya. I also represent Schizophrenic Anonymous in Kenya. So yeah, I also represent Global Mental Health Peer Network. It's a mental health organization. I represent it in Kenya.
Well, that's wonderful. So please tell us about your story of recovery.
My story has been long and painful. I have to, say that after my last serious episode, my family became involved in my treatment, and they pretty much did everything that they could to get me well. And after that, it left me with a serious bout with depression. And so I was in the process of trying to take my life when, I said that instead of just doing that one alone, I should also try and get help. So I got help from British Columbia Schizophrenia Society. And after that, I got to know about Schizophrenic Anonymous. And I started a group. And so both the group and my work with the British Columbia Schizophrenia Society and Schizophrenia Society of Kenya have helped me a lot in my work of recovery, because I've learned things like talk therapy, I've learned things like group therapy, I've learned things like nature therapy, and I've also been serious on my medication. So all those combined have helped my road to recovery.
Well, that's great. And what resources are available in Kenya for people with schizophrenia?
Well, the long story short, I must say that there's none at all, and that's why I had to, try all the way to connect to British Columbia Schizophrenia Society to get help, because the where I live in is a bit comparatively remote, and so there's no help at all, except the hospital. And the hospital, there's no psychiatrist. There's
Oh,
only psychiatrist nurses, and they don't have the ability even to diagnose anyone. So they only prescribe medication, and that's all. There's no therapy. There's nothing else at all, apart from that medicine's prescription. And as far as the whole country goes, there are few peer uh, organizations that have started, but they've started just recently in the past 3 years, 4 years or so. So they've not been around for a long time. And the ground is really dry for someone who is suffering from mental illness. The families are on the forefront. So the only help that someone can get, that the only resource that's there is the family. That's only the resource that you have. And if your family cannot help you, then you're on your own. And so that's the situation over here.
wow. Yeah, that's such a different situation. I'm doing interviews with people from different countries, and it's just interesting to hear, how it's handled in the different countries. Thank you for sharing that. So, what does the Schizophrenia Society of Kenya do?
Schizophrenia Society of Kenya is a peer-to-peer family and friends organization. And we started as a group of 10 people with lived experience, and we came together, and the group has grown to about 50 now. And the vision of Schizophrenia Society of Kenya is making life better for people with serious mental illness or people with severe mental illness. We have a 6-point mission, which is promoting health among people with serious mental illness, promoting education, promoting employment, promoting housing, promoting advocacy, and promoting meaningful relationship among people with serious mental illnesses. We have 3 programs that we're currently running. One has been in the pilot phase. It's called Project Furaha. It's a psychosocial program where we use, that's where we even Schizophrenic Anonymous comes in, is part of that program. So we use it in the local hospital, the Sea Referral County Hospital, to like interact with the patients, to go out and do fun things, just interact, get to know one another, let let loose, like view ourselves, and like educate ourselves about mental illness, and educate ourselves about how we can come against stigma. And we do also stigma deconstruction in the program. So it's a project called Project Furaha, and it's been in the pilot phase, and it went through pilot phase the whole of 2019. Now we are waiting for funding to start funding it properly. We also have another program called Elimisha Jamii Campaign, and it is the construction campaign program, this deconstruction of stigma campaign program and education program. And we're running it currently in the pilot phase in 3 schools, namely Karapul Primary School, Sea Central Primary School, and Sea Township Primary School. So we're running the programs there, and after that we will see if we have enough funding to launch it to the 800 plus schools in the county. We also have another 3rd program called Oasis of Mercy. And Oasis of Mercy is a therapeutic farm program whereby we are working towards it. And we want to start a farm where we could live as an intentional community, and be able to, reside in a residential treatment facility where we could have professionals living with us and people with lived experience living together with them, and like meeting our medical needs and meeting our other needs, social needs, and also our like employment needs. So in a synopsis, that's the outlook of Schizophrenia Society of Kenya.
That's really impressive. Now you're the chair of that, right?
Yes, I'm the chair of Schizophrenia Society of Kenya.
Are you the founder also?
Yes, I'm also the founder.
That's very impressive. Do you have any medical training?
Well, I have what's called lived experience, which is not very much acknowledged, but it's getting acknowledged as time goes by, because people are starting to acknowledge that the people who know the illness best are people who have been there and people who've lived it. So I also have some training, basic training with World Health Organization that I got trained last year. So I have some certification on mental health matters.
Yeah, I'm actually a certified peer support specialist myself, so I know what you're talking about. That's really impressive, all that y'all are trying to do. So, how has SA helped you in your journey of recovery?
SA has helped me a great deal. I got to know about SA and with your predecessor, and once he helped me to get to know the program, I started it with the hospital, local hospital, and I was one of the people who are in the program, and it helped me mostly with the talk therapy and group therapy. It helped me because before I was just in the house, I could not leave the house. I was depressed. I was most of the time hanging in the house, and I was becoming overweight and stuff. And so when I started the program, I started going out, I started meeting other people, we started talking, we started using the program, and our lives changed. My life changed a great deal. Nowadays, I am out there. I'm the one on the ground running the programs that even the one we are piloting right now, it's given me that capability. It's given me the capability to be myself. It's given me the capability to you know, uh, regain my confidence and regain my purpose of life. So I feel like I'm achieving something and I feel like I'm leading somewhere. So it's not like the emptiness that I used to feel before starting the essay program.
That's great. And I don't know if you're aware, but one thing, SARTA manages the essay groups and does a lot of advocacy. And one thing we're trying to do is to reclassify schizophrenia as a neurological brain disorder. How do you think that would impact you?
Well, I've known that Sadra is pioneering that in the United States and has been working on it for some time. And I don't know what difference it will make because to me, it's both in the brain. The two issues are brain issues. So I really don't know if that's gonna, like produce more funding or it's gonna get more attention or it's gonna be the right classification for it. I don't know exactly what is going to achieve. But when I speaking on the part of Kenya, I know that currently in Kenya, there's no such talk going on, and the only thing going on here is people waking up, to mental health issues, and it's becoming an agenda, and schizophrenia being part of it. So there's no talk of, reclassification of schizophrenia as a neurological disorder. But I believe as research, more research is put into it and people get to know exactly which class it should be in, then it should be correctly classified.
Hey, oops, sorry. Okay, so did you have anything you wanted to add before we end the meeting?
Well, I just want to say thank you to SA. Very grateful. We've been together for about um, 4 years now with the program, and I'm just grateful that I got help from that program, and others as well have gotten help from that program, and so it's great, and it's even great to be representing SA in this country. So we're looking forward to great things.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. I'm going to stop the recording now. Welcome to Sandy Says. My name is Sandy Dimitarchik, and I'm the SARTA Director of Community Engagement. I promote SARTA's advocacy programs and manage the support groups for people diagnosed with schizophrenia-related disorders. I also serve on the board of directors. Today, we are meeting with Alex Tona from El Salvador. Alex is going to talk to us about his experiences with recovery. So please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Alex Alejandro Tona. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was around 20 years old. I was diagnosed in the States, though I live in El Salvador now. And that is the gist of it, I guess.
Okay, so what resources are available in El Salvador for people with schizophrenia?
Here, I think on the medical field, on the psychiatric field, we're pretty much covered in the sense that those that have the acquisitive power in means of economic means, everybody can and has the right to receive psychiatric treatment, and they do once they're ready for it. Everybody takes their own time to get there, but everybody has the opportunity to do so. I think that the barriers that are yet to be broken over here are more of that on the social front per se. Like we get a lot of family members, we get a lot of friends giving all kinds of out of the question tips, you know, and I think a lot of people here give you that comment that it's all in your head or something like that, and that you do not need any kind of psychiatric treatment. Like it's a choice we make every day to live in with these symptoms. And I think that's basically the barrier to be broken here in Central America. Because it's either that on the very skeptical side of psychosis not existing, or on the other front that it's 100% spiritual or religious on some way, and I think that feeds negative or counterproductive input into people's minds.
Now, you're our first SA Spanish group leader. Can you talk about that some and how SA has helped you in your journey of recovery?
Of course, yeah. Well, actually, we've had a couple of groups meetings, but at the moment, we're still trying to recruit more people. I encourage anyone who's watching this interview. Tenemos la reunión en español. We have the meeting in Spanish. So anyone in Central America or of the Hispanic language in general is welcome to join. And we really, I love it. I love Sarda because the groups are kind of like diagnosed for diagnosed groups. You don't have like someone who hasn't lived through it monitoring the whole thing, but it's more people who can empathize exactly even within the darkness of psychosis, because you do get like I feel I should emphasize that a lot of people get really dark thoughts when they're in psychosis, and a lot of people are afraid to speak out because many times they feel they are defined by these thoughts. And I feel like in these groups, you can kind of expose them in a receptive environment where everybody knows that those kind of things do not define you, and you can talk with people that have been through the same kind of stuff and that won't judge you and will show support unconditionally, you know.
That's wonderful. And what do you think about the reclassification of schizophrenia as a neurological brain disorder?
I think on the basis of funding, that would be amazing. I know Alzheimer's gets the dibs on the favorites when it comes to fundraising. They get a lot of that, and it would on what I was talking about before, the subject of social inclusion of people with mental illness. It would be just a huge breakthrough for the skeptics to see that it truly is something of the brain. And as much as the skeptics as the religious people, they might see like, okay, so this is actually like a chemical imbalance, and it is certified, you know, governmental wise or so forth, and that they could really be in the know of how this is actually something that is medical and has medical treatment as much as it does the need for the support of those who might not understand it in the moment of a loved one being diagnosed.
Do you have any educational groups in your country? I know here in the United States, we have like NAMI and MHA, and I know NAMI has a lot of educational programs.
You know, to be honest, I don't think there's any one group that has made enough ripples as for like the general population to know about it. I haven't dug in as deep as to like ask around so much, but there is no one group that you can say is making noise here in a national or on a regional scale. And there are psychiatric hospitals, but they have really limited resources on that front. I should mention, you know, people sometimes lack soap or toilet paper, and they do get these donations. But on the first point, I think I was talking more about the people with the economic capability to receive treatment on us, to see a doctor, but the people who are hospitalized do really have limited resources, those who aren't sent out of the country.
Well, I know for myself, a changing point in my life was becoming a peer support specialist. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or if y'all have anything like that in El Salvador. Basically, I went through a 2-week training, and I have to do 10 continuing education units a year. And it's just wonderful. You know, they train you to share your story and to provide resources to other people. And I know it's a movement that's really gaining a lot of momentum here in the States.
Well, that's really awesome. I mean, anyone, well, Sandy, I thank you as well, because you always send us opportunities to consult on nonprofits, and I really urge anyone to reach out if anyone needs help on the diagnosed basis, but also if there's anything that, you know, I think us who lead a productive life, it's not necessarily because we have like a stronger conviction or whatever, as much as maybe we found like the key things that might make us get through the day and live in a productive life. For example, one of the best tips I ever got, I think, was a doctor telling me you have to think of your thoughts as clouds passing by. And I've kind of evolved that, you know, when you have the phone and you kind of get the wide picture of all the apps that are open. So sometimes a thought will just come into my head and I just think about discarding that app, and you kind of have to let it go, because the more you care about the dark things that come into your mind, the more they bounce. And I think that is only if they do get in there and you've been stuck in that place for so long, I think that only shows your moral compass fighting so hard against it, because it has been stuck in there, and you're fighting because you know you go against that, and your mind kind of goes against the grain to your conscience, and you just kind of have to let it go and be really casual about it, and people will freak out. And that's why these groups are really important, because when you talk openly about the things you think or the things you hear, in my case, I have a auditive schizophrenia, but in a normal conversation, people will just be like, that is not normal to think about. But in these groups, you really get to talk and be supportive with people. And I think, as many people say, you know, that your life experience might be someone else's survival guide, and that goes for everyone. Even though I am technically the administrator of this group, every time I talk to someone, I think we are each one leaders in our own nature because of our own experience, and even everybody learns from everybody in the groups, you know. And based on the program you were saying, I'd love to hear more about that whenever you can.
Yeah, and you know, one thing you and I have in common is that we're both musicians. In fact, that's how you were introduced to SARTA. You performed on our SARTA Night Live program.
That is true. Yeah.
And you recently were in a big article too in
Yeah.
a main magazine in your country.
Yeah, we were lucky enough, me and a friend, to be in the cover of one of the two uh, most famous newspapers here. It's called La Prensa Gráfica, and it's a daily newspaper. It's one of the two big ones, I think, and we didn't even know we were on the cover, but it was just it was very exciting.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to ask you, since you mentioned auditory hallucinations, do you hear music? Like I don't. I have to sit at the piano and I'll just kind of play around and come up with something, but I don't hear it.
Yeah, you know what's happened to me before? Like at times, because I'm not really a composer, I'm more of a lyric writer, but sometimes I will be. You've probably had this too, that sometimes you dream up songs. And
No, really. I have to sit at the piano and I'll just kind of
I
play
get you.
around and just something comes out and I like the way it goes and I kind of build on it. Yeah.
I will sometimes I do have dreams, and there's like this whole song, like I'm like the arrangement is happening, but then I never seem to remember the lyrics, and I hate that. I never do, and it's such a great song, and I'm just like, I can't remember it. And what does happen, I don't listen to music like I'm composing it, but what does happen is sometimes I'm listening to a song on my phone, and I'll shut it off, and then the song keeps playing because I know it. And kind of like an eidetic memory, it just keeps playing for a little while, and I'm like, it drives me crazy a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have that talent, but was there anything you wanted to add before we close?
Well, I think there's one thing I'd love to say, and it's psychosis is a daily struggle. And my mother tells me this story about a man who doesn't carry a rock up a mountain, and there's this man, and God tells him to carry a rock up a mountain, and every day he tries to move this rock, and every week God tells him, you got to get it up the mountain, and he keeps doing it, and years and years and years go by, decades, and then this man tells God, I haven't moved this mountain, like I haven't moved it an inch. I have tried for decades and I haven't done this. And God tells him, yes, you have not done that, but look at your muscles, look at your arms, look at your legs. You might have not moved that rock, but you're capable of confronting everything else that comes your way. And I think psychosis serves so much as a filter to make us resilient in ways that we might achieve or overcome problems that would baffle many other people. And I don't say it to brag. I say it proudly because I know many of us that suffer these things try to lead extraordinary lives, and there is nothing stopping anyone from doing these things. And our grasp on reality and the lack of also kind of blurs out the line of possibility. So we should not be ashamed of wanting more and attempting righteousness and happiness and prosperity. So,
You know, on Facebook, I saw a quote that I really like. It says, not about me without me.
Not about me, without me. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty powerful. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. Please go to our YouTube SARTA 1 registration page so you don't miss our future interviews. Bye.